Hello, Sports Hub fans. We're back on Super Bowl weekend. We did this interview. We could have done it early in the week, but we kind of agreed we're going to do this again on a Friday, and we'll post this out because we just didn't want to be the reason for any jinx. I will tell you this right now. I am going to do my prediction at the end of this video. I'm not torn. I've decided, but I've been torn all week. I think it's a super close game, as I did a couple of weeks ago. But fantastic news. As you can see, I've got Jamie back. And I'm super, super happy to have you. So welcome back. Let's get stuck in. Let me start just by recapping where we are. You said you were going to very much enjoy, win or lose the AFC Championship game. You won. How do you? How was Monday?
Well, yeah, the Monday after the AFC Championship game, it felt like I had a smoke alarm going off my head for most of the day. You know, I managed to get it booked off, so that was good. I didn't have to deal with going to work or actually kind of communicating with any other human being that day. So I did okay. I did fine. I just about survived.
Excellent. What point of Monday did you kind of fully remember that you still had to do this again? It was Super Bowl.
Yeah, I probably gave myself the Monday off, but on Tuesday, that was when everything kind of started sinking in. So a lot of the NFL film stuff came out that day. You know, the mic'd up and all the recap videos, and actually, that's when I kind of dove headlong into reliving the AFC Championship, but also looking forward to the Super Bowl, and it is something to look forward to. It's nothing that I've experienced before.
Yeah, absolutely. Being obviously a fellow AFC team supporter, it's been a really strange 20 year period for us, I guess, because they've been so dominated by the Patriots going to 10 Super Bowls in that time. So it was always trying to get a team just good enough to kind of nip in. The Raiders never really that close. But certainly when Brady went, he kind of opened the door. I think we genuinely agreed that while Mahomes is probably going to take the next, going to control the next decade. I think Joe Burrow, so the thing I kind of that alluded to me this week, or was kind of I saw this week, was so Joe is going to go from national champion, a knee injury, and then potentially Super Bowl champion. And then they were trying to find a comparison of someone who's taken a team, kind of taking their college team and then taking the professional team. They can only find Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in basketball, which is an interesting fact because obviously in some ways it's easier in basketball because one unbelievably great player. In football, it does take much of a team. We talked last time about how much of a change Joe has brought to, I think, not just the team, but how Bengals fans feel about the whole franchise. You're just on the cusp now. The big thing with Joe is he's played big games. Matthew Stafford hasn't. You've got to feel just a little bit more confident that your quarterback is more proven, if you like, than any others.
Yeah, he's a mentality monster. He really is. And it would be very easy to come into an environment like the Bengals and get very jaded by it all and kind of let some of the negativity of the place drag you down. Obviously, his first season, he was coming into a team that had only won 2 games the previous year. The team in his rookie year didn't get off to a particularly hot start, and it was him having the kind of fortitude to overcome some of that. Now, obviously, there's a load of factors as to why the Bengals are now a contender, and it isn't just Joe being this kind of huge figure, but it's interesting that he's taken the team along with him. He's taken some of that kind of swagger and some of that kind of moxie that he had at LSU, and he's sort of brought it forward to the Bengals, and this is just a continuation of what he was in the final year in college, where he kind of came from nowhere and blew onto the scene. He's incredibly confident. He's incredibly kind of media friendly, and that's not stopping. And I hope he doesn't stop for another 10 years.
Yeah, well, I mean, his championship game pre-outfit was absolutely on point. I think when I saw him walk in, I went, he ready? Oh, he's ready. He fully appreciates that he's not allowed to lose this game, because that clip would have played all the time. So for the rest of the team, I think just from a Super Bowl perspective, probably just give the Rams some love. I think we talked about last time, everybody's talking about the offensive line and the sacks. I think the Rams, of course, have got an outstanding front on their defense, obviously led by Aaron Donald. But none of that really, if you like, is a surprise. I don't think the Rams have a surprise in them from a defensive perspective. I don't mean to be, that's not to be detrimental to them. It's just to say, I think we probably know what we're going to get. Aaron Donald is going to cause trouble, and Von Miller has been there and done it. And Floyd should probably be the one that you leave the least. How are you are you expecting a super close game? What are you expecting, I guess, we always talk about our first 15 players. What are you expecting the Bengals to try and do to negate that front? And then we'll then roll on, talk about the Ramsey Chase matchup, which I still don't think we're probably going to see, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, I think with Aaron Donald, a lot of the talk has been, how are you going to stop Aaron Donald? Realistically, you don't stop him. He's going to be a menace all game. You just got to find ways of working around him, working away from him, and maybe that's the way you go at it. For me, I see using screens more as a way to get the ball very quickly outside, so you're not having to deal with that pressure up the middle. And maybe kind of getting the ball out of Joe's hands, which is kind of uncharacteristic for him, because he does like to hold on. He does like to try and sort of extend plays as much as possible. But maybe if you're scheming sort of quicker passes, screens outside, maybe just run the ball straight at Aaron Donald, see how that works. He's a very stout run defender. He's not as good a run defender as he is a pass rusher. So maybe you kind of try to negate in that way. Obviously, there are other pieces on the Rams defense. I'm not ignoring them because, good grief, you're looking at Von Miller, who's potentially sort of the third best pass rusher on their defense, which is a bit terrifying. But there will be a way. There will be a way to at least get some points on the board and get yourselves involved in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you call it a weakness, the linebackers, I think, can be got at if you can get through. And of course, from a secondary perspective, I think I think people have to remember the Bengals match up very well with basically everyone, utilizing, I guess, rookie contracts as much as anyone. But that does mean drafting well. You can take a weapon away. They still have 2 to 3 more in the bank. Is that CJ? I can't say his surname. How do you say it? Uzama. He's lost. I think that's a big piece to lose. Because he's the one, I guess, is the one goes most unnoticed. Actually, when I have, and maybe it's because I've picked him up in fantasy a few times, he's sneaky good. He's been sneaky for a couple of years. And I think he probably enjoys running under. But of course, everyone now then talks about Chase Ramsey, which is interesting because I don't know how much the Rams will go. They don't play huge amounts of man, but how much they will match the two against. I think if just from a neutral, I would love them to just go pound, play for play, whole snap for snap. If they did, without being completely biased, who do you think would come out?
Yeah. Well, I'd go back to what Wink Martindale tried to do for the Ravens, and he tried to have Marlon Humphrey on Jamar Chase pretty much one-on-one, and that lasted a half. And I think Chase got about 150 yards in that half,
Yeah.
and then they thought, this isn't working. So, part of this week has been trying to maybe goad the LA Rams into thinking that Ramsey on Chase is a good idea, kind of on their own. I think he'll need a bit of help. To be honest, the modern NFL is so kind of offensively slanted anyway, that even if you aren't quite getting open against sort of the very best DBs, you've always got a chance of getting kind of a bit of an awful flag on the back of it. So it's always worth kind of backing the receiver unless the receiver's really terrible. It's always worth backing the receiver in these duels. But I don't see the Rams falling for that. I think it'll be something a little more complex, and a little more kind of zony.
Yeah, absolutely. And then just to tie it off the Super Bowl, and then we'll come back to your prediction. I'm gonna guess which team you're going to select, but we'll ask you for a scoreline. Sean McVay is, well, I mean, he's had, his offensive, he's going to lose another coordinator to another head coaching job, which we talked about before. And obviously Zach Taylor. This is a really strange matchup because there's no, I just don't see there's any hidden secrets. I think both teams will be coached over the last couple of weeks to understand the ethos of both offenses and what they're trying to do. Is this we haven't had it too much, or I haven't seen it in the media too much. Is this a little bit of a head coach versus head coach? Obviously, McVay is 0-1 in the Super Bowl, but that was against the old stage of Belichick, being upstaged by your former offensive coordinator. They haven't tried to play this up. Maybe they will in the last couple of days. But where do you think that's going to go?
I really kind of think Sean McVay is one of the great kind of football minds of this current time. He's a really impressive coach, and I don't necessarily agree that he will know much about what Zach's doing, because I think the Bengals tried to recreate what was going on with the Rams in Zach Taylor's first year on the team. It didn't go that well, and they kind of largely tore it up and thought, well, we need to go at it some other way. They ended up getting Brian Callahan in, who's the current offensive coordinator. He used to be, I think he used to be in Oakland when Oakland was still a thing, and he's kind of bounced around the league quite a bit. He is kind of the architect of the playbook. He designs these concepts, which some of them have been kind of fairly normal, fairly prosaic, and then you get things like the Joe Mixon fake flea flicker that was run against the Raiders earlier in the year, which is honestly impressive. And I think kind of one way they beat the Chiefs in week 17 was having these hole shots to Chase, where he'd find, for even just sort of a slight second, a gap between cornerback and safety, and Joe and Jamar have such an understanding that they can, they can work with that. I don't see it being a direct kind of coach-to-coach thing, but I see individual coordinators just kind of going all out to create difficulty for each other. And, I've got a lot of respect for the Rams, and I do think that the Bengals coordinators have a lot of fresh ideas and a lot of interesting plans to kind of overcome opponents.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it's obviously in some respects a copycat league, but then there's elements where you can't copy. You just don't have the same players. Everyone says, just go and get the defensive coordinator from the Rams, and go, well, yeah, but they're not going to bring Aaron Donald with them. And you scheme to your strengths and talents. So first Super Bowl in 30-something years. real, but more than just a Super Bowl. We talked about last time. Real promise that this might not be the only deep playoff run, if not only Super Bowl in the next few years. One of the things that came up at the end of the week on Friday was your old quarterback Carson Palmer talking about he was insinuating that will the Bengals go all out to keep not just Burrow happy, but keep everybody paid that needs to be paid. It seemed a very strange thing to bring up a couple of days before the Super Bowl, without necessarily having to see it all. What kind of your thoughts on almost like everybody's been up in the Bengals and what a great story, and I think everybody's kind of taken them on board. If you're not a Rams fan, then everyone's just probably a sneaky Bengals fan for this game. Seems strange that your old quarterback would start firing shots when, and we talked about last time, money has been spent in the last couple of seasons. It seems a strange one to me. What about you?
Yeah, so obviously Carson Palmer left the Bengals in, 2011.
I want to talk about
that. Yeah, that's going back like 10, 11 years now. This is a different organization, and kind of part of that is that Mike Brown has relinquished an awful lot of control over what's going on, and that has meant that other executives, so people like Duke Tobin and Katie Blackburn, are now more at the head of the organization and more kind of invested in the running of it. You know, Mike Brown was a very, very sort of old school football character. He'd build through the draft. He'd very rarely bring sort of big splashy free agents in. There'd either be kind of reserves on other teams that, you know, he could get a nice cheap deal on, or realistically guys that were over the hill. I mean, we had T.O. come in and he was 36. Yeah. And, you know, he was still fine, but he wasn't like prime T.O. These days, we do spend a bit more money. We're not kind of trying to go for the big kind of flashy free agents at the top of, at the top of the market, but there is money there. And I think the ethos of the Bengals over the years has been that they try to look after their own. They try to re-sign their own players. Now, obviously, there are a few free agents coming at the end of the year. You want Jesse Bates to be re-upped in some way. You want BJ Hill to come back, particularly after the play he made last week. Ogunjobi's been great all year. I think we should look after that side of things before looking at free agency. And I think free agency is probably going to be somewhere where we can find a new starting guard. We can maybe find, someone else to go in on the interior O-line as well.
Yeah, and obviously free agency becomes a different proposition after this Super Bowl run. I think you are more likely to get a player with a year or two left willing to take a little bit less because he can see the opportunity. At the end of the day, if you're not going to go to the playoffs and you're not going to succeed as a team, then you want to be paid. If you know you're going to go, then take a few mil less. Sounds really crazy. Take a few mil less because you get the additional on your endorsements for winning. Look, it's obviously amazing having you again, and if you win, there's every chance we may just have to do a little wrap up. Probably not Monday, but before I let you go, I would be remiss if we do not say what's the score going to be.
All right, so I'll go for a score prediction. I'll also go for a kind of game pattern prediction because I think we've seen a couple of times with the Bengals where they maybe don't get off to the fastest start, and it's really after halftime where they adjust and react to their opponents. So I see the Rams going out of the blocks, maybe get themselves sort of 14-0 up very quickly. The Bengals fight back. It becomes kind of a bit more muddy towards the second half, and I'm going to take Bengals by 3 and a score somewhere in the mid-20s, so 24-21, something like that.
I think the over-under is about 45.
Right. That sounds about right.
You're right on the cusp. You're right on the cusp. You're gonna have to wait for, like everybody else, to find out my prediction. I'm not doing a prediction now. I'm doing it right at the end. It's so lovely to have you on again. maybe we'll speak again as Super Bowl champions. Maybe we'll speak again as just as AFC champions before the season starts. Obviously, I kind of wish you guys all the best. If you like, maybe we're all AFC brethren, and you did beat us. So
Yes.
it's always better to lose to the eventual Super Bowl champions. I think it's going to be a great game. I think it's going to be a close game. I think 3 points is about right either way. So I'll let you go. I'll bid you farewell. Thank you very much, and good luck with the game. Hello, Sports Hub fans. Welcome back. This is the second helping of our, I guess you call it Bengals special. Again, we did it on a Friday because we did not want to jinx the Bengals in any way. So welcome, I guess, Peter, again, who's that side of me this time. Peter, thank you for coming back on. We've just got to review slightly. We've just got to talk about how amazed were you at the end of the game, and then how were you feeling kind of Monday, Tuesday? Because I was pretty tired.
Look, I know that the phrase house money has been bandied around, and I really felt it when we played against the Titans. We'd beaten the curse of a playoff victory. Then we rolled into the Titans and we beat them, so that was another curse broken of never having won, franchise never won away playoff game. And then along came the Chiefs. Now, I have to be honest with you, I know we beat them in week 17, but I thought this was a completely different kettle of fish. And of course, the first half was not good. What we did in the second half, though, which was a carbon copy in terms of success that we had against them at our place, where we restricted Mahomes to 3 offensive points in the whole of the second half, which was unheard of, just blew my mind. And I genuinely think I was in a state of shock for so long. And it took a few days for it to sink in that we're in the Super Bowl. And I'm sure if I was a player, whilst I might enjoy the extra rest, I think I would have liked to have just rolled straight into the Super Bowl a week later. Yeah. But for us fans, this fortnight, it's been fantastic because we've had a fortnight to enjoy the feeling we've not had for 33 years. And for many young fans, of course, they've never experienced this before. So it's been fantastic. And there's been a lot of interest in the Bengals. As a Bengals UK fan group, there's been a lot of interest. We've all been doing podcasts or live radio stints, and it's just a wonderful time to be a Bengals fan.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's a strange. Obviously, it's a great year to make it. The LA being the second biggest marketplace, SoFi Stadium being one of the best stadiums kind of worldwide in any sport. It's a strange time. And then the funny thing then it transpires, it's the AFC's turn to be the home team. So actually you're the home team in the stadium. Yeah. Rams are the home team of. So it's got weird home situation.
But we're in the away changing room.
I thought they might do.
Yeah, we're in the Chargers changing room, not the Rams changing room.
The Rams changing room.
Go figure that out.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, they would argue that it's home and home. So, at least it'll be a decent changing room because sometimes you have a really great home dressing room and then the away dressing room is terrible. Look, leading in, as you say, you kind of 2 weeks. We kind of missed last week because that Pro Bowl is just a terrible, terrible game. The Bengals have just
the whole thing's a joke because it's just a popularity contest.
Yeah, absolutely.
Give it back to the players and the coaches picking the best players, and give them the credit of being Pro Bowlers, not because a certain fan base has more fans in America and therefore they vote their players in, whether they've been good or not. Yeah, sorry, I'll get off my soapbox.
No. Well, listen, we can go on a soapbox. I think the players genuinely like it because of the money, but they really put as little effort in as humanly possible. So I think going to the Super Bowl and making it is even better.
Yeah. So get rid of the Pro Bowl game. Just have the Pro Bowl drills, for want of a better phrase, game, not the actual game itself, skills, that's it, the skills competition. They're fun. Have the whole thing as a nice big party, nice big network. Don't bother having a game where people won't tackle, and it just makes a mockery of it. It really does.
Well, yeah, but you didn't have to worry about it this year. And I would imagine Joe Burrow will probably be voted in next year. Whether he gets to play on it, we'll have to see.
But he wasn't voted. That's the point, though. He wasn't voted in this year. They voted in Lamar Jackson, who was injured for half the season. No, didn't. No, I haven't got anything against that running back, but he was voted in against Joe Burrow, and Joe Burrow has shown. And that's another thing. I'm going to stay on my soapbox now. The MVP award. The MVP award is voted for before just around the end of the regular season. So Aaron Rodgers, God bless him, he's had a nice season. He's done exactly what he does every year, not much more than that, and he's the MVP. Really?
Who would you give it to?
First playoff game at home, and he loses to the 49ers. You ask him whether or not he thought that's been a great season for him. I bet it wasn't. It's absolutely discredited the fact that players are their reputation is based on what they do in the postseason. And yet for the MVP, the so-called biggest award out there, they don't even take into account the postseason. It's ridiculous. There's some silly stat that the MVP has not won the Super Bowl in about 20 years because it's done on the regular season. They ignore the postseason.
Well,
you tell me why.
Because Tom Brady hasn't won that many MVPs.
Yeah, no, Tom Brady hasn't. I think he's had 2 MVPs.
Yeah.
It's frankly ridiculous. And don't even get me started on the coach of the year.
Well,
Mike Vrabel? Really?
I would just add, for anyone that's worrying, when you call the Ravens quarterback a running back, there may be a smidgen of rivalry in some of those comments.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say that? That was a slip of my tongue. I do apologise.
I picked it up just in case nobody else did. But let's talk about the good stuff. Let's just say, like, the last 2 weeks, the Bengals. I feel like the Bengals are a team that have enjoyed the 2 weeks and the process. And you could argue that the Rams are the team that have almost been talking about the pressure of the game. And even really, I don't even know why they've been kind of set as favourites, but the Rams are kind of going into this as favourites. The Bengals seem to be happy with that and just been talking it up. Yeah. Do you, heart on heart, or say head rather than your heart, do you feel like the Rams are kind of rightfully favourites, or are the Bengals kind of playing a bit of a game?
No, Bengals aren't playing any game. It's just the Bengals, the NFL and the bookmakers never back the Bengals. They never do. It's just the little old Bengals, right? Well, they're ignoring what we've done. We have been exceptional when we have been 3 or 4 point underdogs all season. We really have. And so I'm quite happy if they want to make us the underdogs. We're used to that. One thing you really should not give the Bengals and Joe Burrow is any ammunition at all. We saw before week 16 against Baltimore, Wink Martindale, the defensive coordinator, make those comments about, well, we're not ready to give him a gold jacket yet, and no, we're not going to single coverage. Right, and then he went off and had just an absolutely phenomenal game. And in interview afterwards, they said, "Were you aware of it?" He said, "Yeah, didn't think it was necessary." And he said, "Did it have any impact?" And he just smiled at the camera and went, "Maybe." Right? Don't give the Bengals any material. Don't give them something to pull up in the locker room and say that people are ignoring you, because it really is fuel to them.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's an interesting process for Burrow, because when you look at, so the Rams are, I think, the kind of general 3 point favourites. It's an interesting place to
4.5. I think it's 4.5.
4.5 now.
Yeah,
it's an interesting place to put the Rams, because generally the line is often dictated by the quarterback. And I mean, not without saying, not to knock Stafford, but I don't think it's close on big game, on experience and big game ability. One person has spent the last 3 years expecting to win, and one person has kind of only really had this year as that genuine expectation of victory. Burrow's been in bigger games. It's a fact. There's not really a way to work around it. So having that on the fact,
Can I give you facts on that?
Yeah.
Let me give you facts on that. In 2019 at LSU, Burrow had to beat Alabama, had to beat Georgia in the SEC title game.
Yeah.
Then got to the semi-final of the championship, beat Oklahoma, beat Clemson in the final. This year, Baltimore Ravens week 16, Kansas City week 17, Raiders wildcard round, Titans away divisional round, the Chiefs away in the championship round. 9 career must-wins Burrow has had, and he's 9-0. In that time, he's thrown for 3,511 yards. That's 390 yards a game. He's thrown 31 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Oh, I'm very happy with Burrow in a must-win game. He raises his game when the lights are brightest. He raises his game.
Yeah, absolutely, and the numbers are fantastic. And I think I think he's thrown 2 picks in those 9 games. He's an outstanding.
And one wasn't a pick.
Yeah, he's an outstanding.
The Titans wasn't a pick. How they didn't overrule that? The ball hit the ground as he could.
That was a lot of groundwork, shall we say? But he's definitely a big game hunter. And actually, just to kind of underpin those points, the Titans did have the running back whose name now eludes me.
Derrick Henry
back. Kansas City, which everyone says is an absolute nightmare place to play.
Yeah.
The pressure, obviously, of the first playoff game in 30 years, and the Raiders driving right near the end. So it wasn't all Burrow. The defense stood up when they needed.
No.
And arguably, and I know there was injuries, and that AFC North is a humdinger of a division. It is genuinely hard work to get through. If nothing else, it gets damn cold towards the end of the season. It's just hard to get through. So to play 6 games throughout the season, but to play 6 games in those last couple. Whereas I think the Rams come in and then all, in some respects, all of the right type of plaudits, right? The perceived lack of, or the sacks we all talk about, we talked about last time, and then you add Aaron, and then you go up against Aaron Donald, Von Miller, Floyd, with then also Ramsey in the backfield. I think that's 4 outstanding players, but I think we forget about the other 7 players on the field. And can you get to it? Are we looking at roughly not quite a draw, but they've got some real outstanding players. Are we looking for T. Higgins and Mixon to really step up? Is this really where it's going to be won and lost? It's the other players that need to take that pressure off.
We've got a fantastic contrast between 2 teams who have a lot of similarities in the way they are run, and obviously McVay and Zach Taylor know each other very, very well, but their approach to the creation of their roster is massively different. And and there are more teams starting to go the way of the Rams than the traditional way, which is the Bengals. The Bengals have done it through the draft, and they've hit on drafts, and we've got good young players, etc. The Rams have traded every high pick they've got until the year 2075 to bring in established professionals. And I get the logic in that. I get the logic because they are established. Don't gamble on college players that might not turn out well. But the problem with that, to me, is you bring in players who are extremely expensive. So there's a limit to how many of them you can have. In which case, you have to hit on the lower draft picks. In which case, aside from these great players, you've got players who are perhaps not quite so great. Whereas, if you manage your roster properly, the way that the Bengals have, I think, have done it, there is you may not have the absolute superstars, but the overall level is much, much greater. So your point about where we won and lost, we've heard all week about will Jalen Ramsey follow Chase? Will he go one-on-one? I hope they do. I hope the Rams do, because it would be their biggest mistake. Right? Because let's just say Ramsey goes on Chase. Let's just say that Ramsey is able to shut Chase down, and that could happen. right? That could happen. Chase hasn't been spectacular in every single game, right? He had a lull in the mid-season because teams started to double him. Then what's going to happen? Are we going to have 5'9" Darius Williams with a PFF grade of 65.3, or 5'9" Dante Dayan with a 67.4 rating, covering 6'4" T Higgins with an 84.5 rating? Oh, they've got a taller cornerback, David Long. He's all of 5'11". We're going to stick him on T Higgins. His grade's worse. He's 58.8. So Jalen Ramsey is fantastic. Absolutely, he is. He can't cover the whole lot. It would be a mistake, in my opinion. What they need to do is to put Jalen Ramsey on T Higgins one-on-one. They're both tall. They're both physical. That's fine. And then you double or triple Chase and hope. Of course, that means that Boyd is going to feast in the slot. CJ Uzama coming back from injury, he will feast.
Is he due back?
Yeah, he'll be back. Oh, don't you worry about that. He'll be back. Let's put it this way. He's already confirmed that if the Bengals, I should say when, but he said if the Bengals win the Super Bowl, he is going to bath in a bowl of Skyline chili, which is Cincinnati chili. So, CJ will be there. No two ways about that. And I think it is the lesser reputation players who are more likely to feast in this matter. It would not surprise me at all if Chase gets one or two catches for 20-odd yards, and that's about it. And everyone says, oh, a poor game. No, because if he takes Jalen Ramsey out of the game, the others will feast. Now, obviously, the other thing that we're talking about is Aaron Donald and how fantastic Aaron Donald is. And yes, he is. And how the Bengals O-line can't block. Because everyone remembers the Titans game. Joe Burrow is the most sacked quarterback in the NFL. Joe Burrow is also in the Super Bowl. He's in the Super Bowl despite being the most sacked. We had a poor game against the Titans. Their defense baffled, and Joe Burrow struggled, as did the D-line. The O-line. What did we do against the Chiefs? We sacked Mahomes more than they sacked. I think Burrow was sacked only the once. So we can step up, but everyone's saying that Aaron Donald is going to he's going to be the pivotal part of the game. You know, he's this fantastic. He is fantastic. In 20 games this season, Aaron Donald has 14.5 sacks, which is fantastic. Now, let's completely ignore that in only 17 games, Trey Hendrickson's got 16.5 sacks. Tell me who's got the most impressive stats there. So we will get pressure on Stafford. And what we know about Stafford, I'll take a breath in a second, but what we know about Stafford is he makes mistakes. He makes mistakes. He is ranked in the bottom 10 of turnover-worthy plays. He's tied for the NFL lead in interceptions. And that is where the game will be won. We have won the turnover battle. Thank you. Yeah. In every game this season. Bengals are 12-1 this season when they are at least even in a turnover battle. And yet in the playoffs, we've won every single time. In our last 3 playoff games, our final defensive play has been an interception. This defense finds a way. The last 15 Super Bowls, teams who've won the turnover battle are 9-2. So I think that's what's going to happen. I think we'll get some pressure on Stafford. I think their running game isn't going to help out enough, but he's going to chuck it all over the park. Our opportunistic defense will get opportunities. If we win that that turnover battle, we win the Super Bowl. Donald or Ramsey apart, doesn't matter. If we get the turnover battle, we will win.
How will you see? We talk a lot about Burrow, but how will you see his legacy go down? It was a fantastic stat that came from ESPN. I would say it came from ESPN. That the only comparable start of a career, end of a college career, and start of a professional career was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who won the national title at LSU, and then in his second season won the NBA championship with Milwaukee. There is no comparable quarterback that would lead a team in NFL history. He doesn't probably quite cement his legacy for a gold jacket. He's quite close, right?
No, not after one season. Not after one season. Look, give him a decade of getting new records, busting myths. Look, we had the Hall of Fame selection last night. The greatest right tackle in the history of the game, who has barely given up a sack all career. Willie Anderson, still misses out. Why? He's a Bengals fan. They didn't win anything, and that's the problem. They didn't win. It's little Bengals. They didn't win anything. The cornerback with the most interceptions. I don't mean defensive back, because there are plenty of safeties in the Hall of Fame with more interceptions. But true cornerback, Ken Riley, the late Ken Riley, he's still not in. Why? They're the Bengals. Bengals have got one player in there. Right? So it's going to take a lot more. I mean, it's going to take Super Bowl wins. It's going to take rings for Burrow. He will have the records. If he wins on Sunday night, Monday morning, he will be the only first overall pick quarterback to win the Heisman National Championship and the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And that's in 2 years as well. That's in 2 years. So we're loving it. We are really looking forward to Sunday night, Monday morning. And obviously we want to win, because you never know if you're ever going to get back there. Dan Marino went there to Super Bowl in his second season, never went back. And people say he was one of the most talented quarterbacks to ever throw a ball, but he's not considered one of the best because he had one Super Bowl appearance. So you never know. You've got to take advantage, and we want to take advantage. But still, in the back of all our minds is we look at this young team we've got. Right? We've got Mixon, Boyd. Boyd's 27, but so Mixon, Boyd, Higgins, Chase, Burrow, 25 or under, all contracted for this season and at least 2 more. That's exciting.
That's the
future.
Yeah, and I know we don't have much longer, but the one storyline, if you like, that just hasn't. Well, I mean, I'm sure in Cincinnati it's been spoken about. Just hasn't. It's Mixon. He. I mean, he's about the most underappreciated player. I mean, again, running backs don't get a lot of love, I guess. But it was his run in overtime, if I remember rightly, that really punched in the opportunity for the field goal. It would that was the. To me, that was almost like the end of that run ended the Chiefs, and then after that they seemed flat. That's an interesting storyline.
We couldn't run it against the Titans, and yet the one touchdown we got was Mixon, and he's not had a fantastic playoffs because he's not had that opportunity. But when his number is called, he steps up. So you're right. We're in overtime. We're driving down. T. Higgins catches to put us on the outskirts of the long field goal range of McPherson. And then we just give it to Mixon, and he runs and runs and runs the ball. So he gets it much further down to make a much more comfortable kick. Now, look, I can't deny, and I know speaking to lots of my colleagues with the same, we had 2015 flashbacks, playoffs, Dalton injured. We're playing against the Steelers. We're ahead. We're controlling the ball. Last few minutes, Jeremy Hill fumbles it. Steelers come back and win. And it's a game we don't talk about. I just have, but it's a game we don't talk about. But I was having, and I know a lot of my colleagues were having the same flashback memories. But Mixon was secure, and he just ran it and ran it and ran it, and it just then made for a much easier kick for Mr. Golden Balls McPherson.
The leg on that kid. Was he a 5th round pick?
12 for 12 in the playoffs. 12 for 12 in the playoffs, and he's more comfortable from 50+ yards.
Yeah, it's incredible. And the funny thing is, he's going to be. I mean, that stadium is, I think, a much easier stadium to kick in. The way they kind of set it up, the weather. I think it's one of the warmest Super Bowls in a little while. So we should be looking for him from 60 probably to win the game.
Well, he's used to the heat as well because he came out of Florida.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't let you go without kind of the end question. Give me a score prediction. I'm not even going to ask you who's going to win because I already know. What's your score prediction?
Okay, I've got 27-24 McPherson 3-pointer.
You heard it here first. Bet the over.
Yeah.
As always, it's an absolute pleasure. Good luck on the Super Bowl.
Thank you.
I know you'll enjoy it, win or lose.
Well, can I tell you what we're doing?
Yeah, please.
Go big or go home. This is the biggest event that we've had. So, Bengals UK, big fan group. We've gone for it. And so we booked out a pub in central London. We made it all ticket, put tickets on sale, sold out in 2 hours. We went back to the pub and said, we need more space. And they said, do you want the 3rd floor as well? We said, yeah, fine. More tickets sold out in 4 hours. So we've got an absolute packed 3-floor pub full of Bengals fans enjoying this moment for the first time in 33 years. So as much the Super Bowl itself, but just being around like-minded Bengals fans, having a great time, it's going to be wonderful.
That sounds amazing. Absolutely amazing. I will not try and tweet any of you. That sounds like an absolute, that Wi-Fi is going to be shocking. Thank you so much for your time. Obviously, I wish you all the luck. As I said earlier, my predictions come at the end, so no one knows my predictions until you watch this video. But thank you so much. Good luck, and then maybe I'll hopefully see you on the other side.
Good day.
Thank you. See you later. Well, it was great to speak to Peter and Jamie. Thank you guys very much for joining again. Let's just wrap this up the right way with my prediction for the Super Bowl. I thought about this long and hard. I thought about it all week. I am going to go with, unsurprisingly, I'm going to go with the Bengals. I'm going to go 27-24 Bengals. I think it's going to be super close. I think both teams are super talented. But when it really comes down to it, I'm going with the general idea that Joe Burrow don't really lose. And the Bengals defense is far better than people give it credit for. When it really comes down to it, there are so many elements to this game that are going to be super important. But the pressure that the Rams defense can put the Bengals under is something that the Bengals have been kind of really very used to throughout the course of this whole season. I think they've had 2 weeks to prepare. I don't think the Rams change what they do, but I do think the Bengals have opportunities to change what they do. Look out for T. Higgins to have a big game because I feel like Chase is going to be well covered. And then on that offensive line, like I say, whilst they're going to be under pressure, absolutely, they've spent 2 weeks game planning for that pressure. Look for Joe Mixon also to have a really, maybe not statistically big game, but look for him to have a really important role. I'm looking for a good running game early for the Bengals. I don't think they're going to get overly concerned if they go down early. I think they still have that confidence over the course of the time. Both these teams have positives, both these teams have flaws. But when it comes down to it, I am going to go with Joe Cool over Matt Stafford. I'm sorry, Rams fans, and I'm sorry, Matt Stafford fans. I just see him throwing probably 2, maybe even 3 interceptions, going for something he shouldn't, and I feel like that will have a detrimental effect. He is one of the highest pick 6 quarterbacks the league has ever seen. I think he probably throws one again today. Thank you all for watching. Again, thank you for my guys for talking. We're going to see you every other time. We're going to be doing some draft stuff. So this has been Dan Ferdinand for Sports Hub Video NFL. You can find us on Twitter at SHV_NFL. Please keep watching. Massively enjoy the game. Love the Super Bowl, baby.